manuscripts, what they are going to check, and how important of it. And we know that now we are facing to the very competitive, like for the journal and publication and high rate of rejection. So today I invite him to give a talk about how can we prepare the manuscript efficiently, and then to give you an idea, and you have to evaluate yourself when you submit, before you submit your manuscript to the journal. And please give a clap for him. It's yours.
Okay, so okay, see, you can hear me. So thank you so much, Sherad, for the invitation. Thank you to all audience. And okay, so today I will give a talk about how to efficiently publish in environmental research, in particular high impact factor journal. So maybe today it will be like an interactive discussion. I mean, I can present some slides with recommendation, with some advices, but you can ask me every time if you have some question. Okay, so don't hesitate to interrupt me. So my name is Pierre Sica. I'm living in France. I'm working in south of France, close to Cannes. So some people from here knows. So Aziz, Ratanaporn, Sherat, and Arnon came here to visit me. So short curriculum about me. So I'm senior researcher. So I'm working in France, but also in Romania, to the Forest Research Institute in Bucharest, in Romania. I'm working on air pollution impacts and climate change impacts on forest ecosystems. And I'm leading one European project, AirFresh, is about urban trees in order to quantify and estimate the benefits provided by urban trees for human health and for environmental point of view. So now I'm editor-in-chief of environmental research. Since before I was associate editor, now I'm editor-in-chief since 1 month, so 1st of November, and associate editor for both reviews, so environmental research, but also for urban forestry and urban greening. At international level, I'm deputy coordinator of the research group about air pollution and climate change impacts on forest ecosystems under the International Union for Forest Research Organization, EUFRO. I'm also expert to the United Nations for clean air in cities. In Europe, we have some action at European scale, European level. So I'm the French representative for the coast action about urban forestry. So I gave some lectures to the University of Sao Paulo and in Bucharest, but also a talk during the Forum on Forest at the United Nations in New York. So our first step is about the selection of the right journal. So this is the most important part. So first, when you want to submit a manuscript, you have to decide at the very beginning which journal you have to focus before starting to write the manuscript. So it's very important to read carefully the aims and scope, not only the impact factor. So you have to start by selecting the good journal. Second step is to read the guidelines for author. I will explain you why later on. So for that, to select the best journal, you have different options. You can check if you have some similar manuscript in this journal. If you don't have similar, so if you don't have, or maybe maybe it is one, yeah. Maybe it was out, no?
No, it's better.
Okay, so you can check if you have some similar manuscript in this journal. If you don't have, you can forget, you can change the journal. So also I put don't send a request to the editor-in-chief before, except for some journals you have to send a request asking the possibility to submit your manuscript. But in Elsevier and Springer, you don't need to send a request for submission. So don't send an email to editor-in-chief, because every day we have many emails, and one more is too much, so don't send. So after that, when you select the journal, you have to ask all co-authors an agreement. For some journals, you need to provide this agreement. So sometimes in the Elsevier, you need to just to provide a declaration. But if you publish in the Lancet, for instance, you have to provide a form with all signature for all co-authors proving you are agreed to submit in this journal. So also you can check the publication speed. For instance, you have some journal, Elsevier Environmental Research is in total maximum 2 months for publication. So as editor-in-chief, it's mandatory to provide the first decision within 3 days. Second, the associate editor is within 3 days more. So in total, in 1 week, you have the first decision. And avoid predatory journals. So I will explain why. So one advice, for instance, when you have your manuscript, you can check your list of references at the end. If most of the references came from the same journal, for instance, Environmental Research or Stoten, maybe this one is a good journal. Sometimes people publish in environmental research, while in the list of references, 90% of references are from Stoten. So this is a way to know which journal you have to select. So predatory journal, or maybe you know what is a predatory journal. So this journal, you have to be careful. I cannot cite some journals, but it's a journal you have to pay for publishing, and you can publish everything, even very low quality manuscript. So be careful, because at the end we check when you have some manuscript, some paper and citation, we can check if you have some manuscript published in these journals. So predatory journal is can publish false or misleading information with a lack of transparency. As a reviewer, for instance, I revise many manuscripts. I reject a lot of manuscripts, and they publish. So they exclude my review because I ask rejection. But they want to publish a lot because they want to win money. So they prefer to skip the reviewer's comments to publish a maximum of manuscript. So this kind of journals have to be avoided. So you can find some information about how to combat, how to fight predatory journal. So you have 2 manuscript, 2 paper published in Nature, 2019 and 2022. So you can find some information about these journals. So now, you know the structure of each scientific paper. So we have different kind of manuscript paper. You have research. So now I will explain you for research paper. But you have also review paper. So for review paper, you need to publish review paper if you have sufficient novelty. Don't publish a review paper for a very huge, widely investigated topic, because we have many review paper about such topic. For instance, air pollution impact in cities on human health. We have many manuscript review paper. So you don't need to publish on this topic. So first, if you want to publish one review paper, you need to check in advance just by checking on Science Direct or Google even. You can check if you have one review paper over the last 5 years, for instance. For the scientific paper, so you have the cover letter, very important, I will explain. Title, authorship, abstract, introduction, material and methods, result, discussion, conclusion, and references. This is not new. So the most important is the cover letter for the editor-in-chief. So as editor-in-chief, we receive the cover letter. So the cover letter should be short. So you don't need to provide 2 pages or 3 pages for cover letter. No, you have to be very short, half pages. Significance, novelty, and relevance to the journal. So this is the most important point to develop. Don't copy-paste the abstract. Many cover letters are just a copy-paste from the abstract. So this is not good. So don't avoid. So, for instance, in my cover letter, I provide 3 different information. So first you have to provide, so you can put on your cover letter evidence before the study. This is a short state of the art. So you can check in literature within PubMed, Scopus, and Google Scholar, and you can check the same topic, and you can say, there is just only a few relevant studies done on this topic. So you can provide a short state of the art. So short is 2 sentences, no more, showing the novelty of your study. Second title, you can put added value of this study. So this is to show the significance of your study. So you can put like 2-hour knowledge. This is the first study to estimate something. This is very important. You have to stress on this word. This is the first study. So very important, because to show the novelty and significance of your study. And also you will provide, or we provide, novel evidence to inform policymakers about something. So third and last section is about implication of the available evidence. So for instance, you can explain that all the evidence will be valuable to policymakers for efficient policy implementation, energy sustainable and climate resilient cities, and human welfare. So you have to stress on the perspective of your study. So this is for the cover letter. When you provide all this information, your cover letter is enough. So half pages, no more. The title, very important. So be very concise and simple title. For instance, I put an example of title I received last week. Very long title. Impossible to understand. So provide an attractive title. Attractive is, for instance, you don't need to provide many information in your title. Effect of 100 ppb ozone at that of Pinus alba on the eastern side of the Hills Mountain in southeastern China. So don't provide many details. Don't provide acronym, and don't provide location. This is because this title shows it's local study, and we don't like. So you need to provide, for instance, simple title: ozone exposure impairs white poplar photosynthesis, or ozone effects on white poplar photosynthesis. And we have many titles showing the study case. So, for instance, air pollution impact on human health in Shanghai, China. No, don't provide the name of the city or the name of the study case, because this show it's a local investigation, so better to skip. Provide a general title. So you can have some short title, and I like, for instance, this is my point of view, some question. You can put some question, for instance, improving local air quality in city, to tree or not to tree? Or should we use the urban trees as effective solution to reduce ozone level in city? So this kind of title are short and attractive. And for the title, for instance, if you have, we have many manuscripts about the Yangtze River in China. So if you have some microplastic investigation in the Yangtze River in Wuhan, China, for instance, this, in order to show it's not a local study, but you can replicate the study, you can say microplastic investigation in urban river. That's all. No one? It's working well. Authorship. So authorship is the list of authors and co-authors and affiliation. So any person who has made important contribution to the content. So when we have a list of 50 authors, it seems only 2-3 people's work, but all the others didn't work. So you have to provide just the name of the most important contributor. Any person who hasn't made important contribution should be added in acknowledgement if you have an agreement. So it's better to provide just 5-6 authors, and the other one you can put as acknowledgement. For sure, read the guidelines regarding authorship. So in some journals, you have a limit of the number of authors and co-authors. Very important, do not change authorship after the first submission. If you change the order, if you change the number of authors, if you change the name, you have a desk rejection. So you will be contacted by the editor-in-chief showing your paper is rejected. So if you need to change something, you have to request to send an email to the editor-in-chief asking the change. And after the reply, you will change. But if you change without the agreement of the editor-in-chief, you will be rejected. So first and corresponding author. So you know the difference, but the corresponding author takes the lead of the manuscript submission for publication process, while the first author is the most significant intellectual contribution. So, and some journals don't accept multiple corresponding authors. So usually we provide just one corresponding author. So, okay, so the corresponding author, you need to ensure that major deadlines are met, prepare and submit the manuscript, and get all author details correctly, and also to check carefully the ethical practices. So abstract usually is less than 300 words in total. So you have to stress on first you can start on the context, background, novelty and significance relative to your study. Objectives, material and methods, one line. Result, put quantify result. If you put very general information, general result, it's not an informative abstract. You need to provide informative abstract with quantified result. Conclusion, and very important, put some perspective. The last sentence of your abstract needs to be perspective. So, introduction. So you have to provide, introduction is the state of the art. So the context, background, rationale, hypothesis. So what is known? What is unknown? And how and why we should fill the gaps. This is the concept for the introduction. At the end of the introduction, you have to provide some hypothesis. So hypothesis is a tested prediction which is expected to occur. So at the end of each scientific paper, you have to provide 2 or 3 hypotheses. Very important. Now, guidelines for some journals like Stoughton and Environmental Research, it's mandatory. You have to provide hypotheses, scientific hypotheses. So, for instance, we hypothesize that urban trees will prevent mortalities in city. If you publish one paper about urban trees and the number of deaths due to air pollution, at the end of your manuscript, you will show that increasing canopy cover in cities will reduce the number of deaths. So one hypothesis is we hypothesize urban trees will reduce mortality in cities. So novel and descriptive, it's better than descriptive manuscript. I mean, you don't need to publish one manuscript with many details, many results. It's better to publish innovative manuscript. Quality is better than quantity. This is you can publish very short manuscript or even short communication. Now we have some short communication better than 10 pages of manuscript. Global is better than local. So this, I mean, we have many manuscripts about, every time I explain you air pollution on human health, because we have many manuscripts about air pollution impact on human health in Wuhan, China. We have air pollution impact on human health in Shanghai, China. We have air pollution impact in Beijing, China. So it's too much. So don't. It's better to provide one global manuscript with, I will explain, possible replication, and not local risk assessment, for instance. Because you can submit such a manuscript in the national journal or local journal, not at international level. Is the rationale is clear? So at the end of your introduction, you have to be careful. Is the rationale is clear? So why my study is so important? So materials and method. So you have to describe the approach, the methodology at a level of details that will allow the experiment to be repeated. So I mean replicability. So from your manuscript, we need to be able to reproduce, to replicate your study in another condition. So you have to provide all information with many details in order to replicate your experiment. So you have to exclude irrelevant information. So, for instance, don't put in your material method plant photosynthesis was measured. This is not good. You have to provide many information. So for instance, photosynthesis was measured by the system with a source, with ambient temperature, fixed CO2 levels for the photosynthetically active radiation, temperature, time window, also the duration. I have many manuscripts. We don't know the study period. For instance, I checked carefully some manuscript. It was impossible to find the year of the study. So such information is very, very important. So be careful, provide all details of your methodology. Also, you have to provide quality assurance and quality control of data. This is the reason of desk rejection. If you don't provide QA/QC of data, your paper will be rejected. For sure, all results must be supported by statistical analysis. So the best is to provide one subsection about statistical analysis. And also, you have to consider something significant from a statistical point of view when you have the p-value lower than 0.05. If you have some p-value over, it's not significant. So you have to provide all p-value. This is the next section. So result. For result, you have to be concise, clear, and quantified. Don't provide general information. For instance, photosynthesis, increased birth stomatal conductance degrees, etc. You have to provide details and quantify the result. Important, do not mix the result with discussion. Now we have some journal, you can submit one section about the result and discussion. We don't like so much. It's better to dissociate result and discussion. But if you dissociate, don't mix them, don't provide some discussion in the section result. Every time you have to refer to figures and tables and provide a p-value, and if you calculate the average, you have to provide the standard deviation. The mean or average, you have to provide standard deviation. So figure and table, very important. You have to provide very high quality figures and not large table. So never repeat the same data twice. If you put in the result section, don't repeat the result in the discussion. Also, if you provide one table, you don't need to repeat in the text, in the core text, the result. Figures easy to understand. Sometimes we have this kind of figure. With now we have many figure like that showing the interaction between components, with the statistical analysis. At the end, it's a mess. We cannot understand something. So provide just easy to understand and high quality figures with color and concise figures. In tables and figures, provide all explanation. If you have only one acronym in your figure, you have to provide the definition in the caption. So, for instance, you have to explain all acronyms, statistic. If you put standard deviation, confidence interval, you have to explain in the caption. Not too many figures. So usually in a research paper we have 5 or 6 figures, no more. If you have 10 figures, is too much. So you have to limit the number of figures and provide small tables. Because if you have one table over 3 pages, it's too much. You have to put in supplementary information. So you need to all extra figure or to explain just a few points, or if you have very big tables, put on supplementary information. Don't put in your core manuscript. So the discussion is usually well done. So the section discussion should explore the significance of the result, not repeat them. You don't need to repeat the result. We know, we read just before the section result. So you have just to explain the significance of your result, and the most important, you have to compare all your result with literature. If you provide some information, you have to explain that in previous treaty it was observed or not. Or you can also explain your result is totally controversial to previous treaty, but you have to compare. And also answer your hypotheses. So for instance, if you want to show, if you increase the canopy cover in cities, you will reduce the mortality in city, at the end of the discussion, you have to prove that if we increase the canopy cover, you reduce the mortality. So conclusion usually is short. Don't repeat the result. Don't repeat some by copy-paste from the discussion the same sentences. So you have to show your result are scientifically sound and provide some perspective and open issue. Why your result of your study is so important for the community. Why, how your result can be used by policymakers. This is very good because at the end we publish a scientific paper for decision maker and policymaker. Your result will be used to establish a new policy implementation, for instance, for air quality reduction, air quality improvement, for mortality reduction, etc. So you have to provide perspective from political point of view, I mean, and open issue. So what are the next steps? What are the future direction, perspective of your study? So the references, so don't provide 200 references. You have to select the most important. For instance, in your introduction, if you put one statement with 10 references, it's too much. You have to select 2, 3 maximum. So for that, I use usually, you can put e.g. is for instance. This is in English, for instance. You provide 3 references. Don't provide 10. Even if you provide 10 references, this means your statement, your study will be not innovative, because if you have many publications about the same topic, this means your paper is not innovative. So limit the number of references. Also very important, this is typical from China. They provide only manuscript from China. No. Even if the study is in China, you have to provide references at international level. Manuscript from Europe, from the US, from South America. For instance, Thailand, I guess you have many manuscripts and references in South of America, in Brazil, for instance, for tropical species, etc. So you have to search and you have to provide references, international references. This is very important because we check the list of references. Always cite the references if a statement, an ID is not yours. So you have to, yes, to provide such information. Also, we check the controlled self-citation. If you publish one manuscript and if you cite only your manuscript, previous manuscript, we have a score, and we know if you cite only your manuscript. This is usually, if you want to increase your H-index, you cite your manuscript, because at the end your number of citation will be increased. But we check. So if you submit one manuscript with 50% of references is your paper, this will be rejected. Usually we reject. Also, check, provide just recent references. If most of your references are before, for instance, 2000, this means the study is not innovative. So you have to provide very recent manuscript. So, because this means lack of sufficient novelty if you provide just old references. So better to stop over the last 5 years. So now, maybe you have some question, or we can wait. So how to write one manuscript? First, you have to know one title, to have one title in your mind before to start writing. So after that, you can draft one version. You can draft a draft version of your introduction. Continue with material and methods and with data analysis. So you can, in order to develop and to describe all the results. So you can start by writing in details all your results. So you can take your table, you describe in details. The same with figure, you details. You can have 10 pages of result. You develop, and at the end you select the most important information. From your 10 pages, you cut, and you keep and you leave the most important information. Just to have 2 pages. 2 pages of a result is enough. So you can start to write the discussion, and while discussing the result and searching for literature, so you can check online using Google Scholar, Science Direct, etc. Maybe you can generate new ideas to increase the significance of your study and to expand the scope of your introduction. So at the end, you can refine the section discussion and introduction. At the very end, you finish with the conclusion. So conclusion, I mean maybe, yes, 15, 20 sentences, lines is enough. Gathering main information and perspective and open issue. At the end, you can write the abstract and refine the title, and you can cross-check all sections. So for the first round, we check the level of English. So be precise, no ambiguity, no confusion. So you have to be objective. Any claims that you make needs to be based on fact, not speculation. So this is for the result and discussion section. Also, provide quantitative result. So this is why you have to provide in your abstract and discussion quantified result, no qualitative description. Be clear. So you have to, if the subject is complex, you have to be able to simplify your approach and discussion in order to be intelligible and understandable by everyone. And be short, no blah blah blah. So one sentence is better than 10 sentences. So you have to be short. So level of English. So your manuscript can be rejected for not good English. So the level of English is cross-check. We have one service in Elsevier checking the English. So if the English is not good, doesn't meet the journal required standard, the paper can be desk rejected. So I mean desk rejection is immediately. So we don't pass the manuscript to associate editor. So desk rejection is automatically done. So in case, so you can ask native English speaker to read your manuscript and to correct. So even if the English is very good, sometimes the reviewer will tell you the English is not good, because we have a very big difference between English from England and English from the US. Sometimes one manuscript from England, the reviewer is from the US, and the reviewer said the English is not good. So for me it's funny, because the English from England is not good. From the UK, England and the UK. So you can ask English native speaker to check your manuscript, but also we can ask, you can send a request to Elsevier. We have one service. You can provide the abstract, you can provide the title. They will select the best person to cross-check your manuscript. So you can ask and send the manuscript for cross-checking. So for the English, so use simple past for your results. So we observed an increase of ozone because the study was before. So you have to use not the present, but the past, simple past. Limit the use of passive voice. So we present result, not result are presented. Use simple terms. For instance, many times we can see in the manuscript utilize, but you can use. So use, not utilize. Close, not proximal. You have to use very simple words. Avoid very long sentences, so short. Avoid repetition. Even sometimes when you want to show your result is very important, for you it's very important, so maybe you can copy-paste 3 times in the manuscript the same sentence. No, you need to put just once. Write directly in English, this is very important. If you write in Thai and then or in French and then in English, it's not good because you translate, and at the end the English is not good. So it's much better to write directly in English. So if you need a professional help online, so you can include title, abstract, and highlights, and you can send to the service, Elsevier service, asking for professional help. Very important. So we have we check 2 information as editor-in-chief, is a similarity and duplication. So similarity is when you copy-paste from a previous paper. So we have a tool, but now you can find online this kind of tool. So better to check before, because direct copying, even from your paper, it's forbidden. So you cannot copy-paste even for the experimental procedure. For that, one advice is to use supplementary materials. If you have the same approach, the same methodology from a previous manuscript, you can provide in details the approach and methodology as supplementary materials, because we don't check similarity for the supplementary information. This is why. So you can provide the full approach, and you can write just a short summary to put on your core manuscript, and you refer to the supplementary information. For more details, for full description of this approach, see supplementary materials. So, important from me, so depends on the journal, but for environmental research I also total. So if the similarity is lower than 25%, it's okay. If the similarity is between 25 and 30%, I will ask you to revise your manuscript. If the manuscript is good, I will send you, please revise your manuscript to reduce the similarity. If the subject is interesting. If in addition the subject is not interesting, I will reject. But if the similarity is over 30%, your paper will be rejected. So we have the total, so we know, so we have such information, so we know which sentence is from a previous paper. And we have all references. So if we have one previous manuscript with more than 5% coming from this manuscript, this is it's not good. So don't copy paste from a previous manuscript, and we check so the total similarity, but also per reference. Duplication. So duplication is, you have two kinds of duplications. So the first is salami slicing. So maybe you can get an email from the editor-in-chief saying your paper seems like a salami slicing. Sometimes they use the French name saucissonnage. Alors, salami slicing, if, for example, if you publish the same approach in different cities. Air quality impact on human health using the famous World Health Organization software RQ. If you use this approach in Bangkok, first paper. If you publish another paper using the same approach in Paris, and also in I don't know, in Beijing, this is duplication of studies. So this is not acceptable. You have to, yes, you have to avoid. Okay. So also duplication if, for instance, you publish result of soil sampling for the year 2019, or microplastic in Yangtze River in 2019. 2 years later you publish the same, but for the year 2022. This is duplication, you cannot. So better to wait and to publish only one manuscript with all data. This is saucissonnage, so we know. So for when you submit one paper, we know if you already publish the same study. So we have the abstract similarity, author similarity, and title similarity. So we calculate a duplicate scoring, and we know if the abstract is similar to a previous one, if the list of authors is similar to a previous one, etc. So the most important is duplication of submission. It's totally forbidden to submit the same manuscript in different journals. So sometimes you don't want to wait because sometimes it's long, the process can be long. So you submit in environmental research. 2-3 days later, or even 1 week later, you submit in environmental pollution or in Stoughton. We know. So this is forbidden. Be careful because you will be contacted by the editor-in-chief. And for sure your manuscript will be rejected, but you will be rejected in all journals you submit. If you submit an environmental research, environmental pollution, and Stoughton in the same week is forbidden, and you will be blacklisted in the 3 journals. So be careful. When you submit in one journal, you have to wait the decision, and when you have the decision of the editor-in-chief, you can submit in another journal if the paper is rejected, I mean. So be careful because you will be blacklisted and it will be impossible to submit again in this journal. So the last step is a submission. So first, before to submit, you have to get agreement by all authors and co-authors. They agree about the submission, about the journal, and about the content. So now, at the end of the manuscript, you have to provide declaration of interest and declaration of authorship. So, this I put because for some journal, you can provide again suggested reviewer. But since last week, we decided to remove this option because there are many conflict of interest issues. Many researchers suggest colleagues, but we know. So for instance, if you have to provide suggested reviewer, for some journal you can again, even in environmental research, because we didn't change again the tool, the online system. But if you have to provide international reviewer, you cannot provide only reviewer from Thailand. If you publish from Thailand, you have to provide maybe one. But all the others should be from outside. At the end, we know if you provide colleagues, because we have a tool checking, and we know if you put some colleagues if you publish with him or with her over the last 5 years. So better to avoid colleague. So this is why. So we got many problems of conflict of interest because we discovered that many fake reviewers. Some people create account with a Gmail with a reviewer, and at the end it was the author. The author was also the reviewer. So they provide, and if as associate editor we select this one, at the end the author revises the own manuscript. So now we know. So now we decided to remove this option. But in case if they ask you, please don't provide colleagues and provide people from outside. So for technical issue, if you have some technical issue, don't contact the editor-in-chief directly, but you have some, you can contact the editorial staff. Okay, so what's next? So at the end, when you submit, the editor-in-chief can contact you for additional information, or also for if your paper is not ready for peer review. I mean, maybe your paper is interesting, but you have too many figures. you have 10 figures, so please remove and put in supplementary material. The similarity is too high, so please reduce. This can be done, but this is good news for you because it will be positive for the next step, because the paper is interesting and it will be passed for peer review. So you can be reject if you don't follow the guidelines of author or the main reason if you are out of scope. Reject following the review. So I'm editor-in-chief, I receive your manuscript, I decide first decision, rejection, or not ready, or I pass for peer review. So at the end, I select one editor, associate editor, expert in your topic, and I send the manuscript to him or to her. He check carefully the manuscript, all data, all information, novelty, etc. And he can reject your manuscript. So you have third round. And so if your manuscript has to peer review, so you have the review process, it can be long, so 2 weeks in, for the first review is 2 weeks in environmental research, and 4 weeks in Stoten, for instance. Or we can suggest you transfer or resubmission. Transfer if maybe your paper is interesting but not fully in line with our topic, with our scope. So we suggest you to submit your manuscript to another journal. And we have now an online system, so your manuscript will be directly sent to another journal. So main reason of rejection. So I list now the main reason. So first reason is your manuscript is totally out of the journal scope. If you publish about some soil studies, don't publish in Stoten, for instance, or you have in Elsevier you can check with the keywords and you can select the best journal. Lack of novelty and significance. So this means additional works should be performed to support the introduction in scientifically sound manner. So for instance, lack of novelty and significance. For me, if you have a very short study period, for instance, you have soil sampling or water sampling twice a week during 1 month, it's not enough. You can publish in a low impact factor journal, but not in high impact factor journal. If you have site and region specific case study, I mean, if you publish one section of the Yangtze River, very small, this is a local assessment. We don't like, we prefer at larger scale. So limited spatial coverage and temporal coverage. This is the main reason of rejection. Also, if you use modeling for air quality, for instance, we have some manuscript using one model for air quality at 10, 20 kilometers of spatial resolution. For local risk assessment, you cannot assess and quantify the impact on human health using very coarse and large resolution modeling. So for that, you need to provide to use a fine resolution model at less than 1 kilometer of spatial resolution. This can be one reason of rejection. If you have small simple size and no replication, so for instance, if you study something, you need to duplicate your sampling, for instance, but also to replicate. I mean, to replicate is to apply the same approach in other under different conditions, environmental conditions, or for a new year. This is why it's better to to submit manuscript with at least 2 years of data, not only 1 year. You can use 1 year and to replicate the year after. This is good. So if the manuscript doesn't report new insight and informative result enough, so this is a lack of novelty. For duplicate submission for 2 different journals, this is the main reason of rejection, and also for saucissonnage, so if you duplicate your studies. And also for preparation, please follow the guidelines for author. So, I mean, main reason of rejection are for similarity over 25%, level of English, quality of figures, for instance. If you provide very bad quality of figures, this can be a way to reject your manuscript. So why? Because as editor-in-chief, we received now we have about for the year 2024 to date is 22,000 manuscripts. So we have to screen every day many manuscripts. So you select just the best one, because we can select the best one because we have many manuscripts. So it's very important to provide a very good version at the beginning. So follow the guidelines. 90%, 80%, maybe even more, of manuscripts don't respect the guidelines. For instance, just by checking the number of characters for the highlight, you have to provide between 3 and 5 bullets with maximum 85 characters, including spaces. But nobody respects. So please respect, because this is a way to recognize if you check the guidelines of author. If you provide some bullets with 200 characters, 2 sentences, we know you didn't follow, and at the end, when we check carefully your manuscript, we can find many mistakes and many errors. So this is a way for screening, to have an overview of your manuscript. Also, put the page number and line numbering. They ask you many manuscripts, many authors don't provide. But even for the reviewer, it's very useful, because when you revise and review your manuscript, you need to provide the line and page. It's much easier for reviewer. So read carefully the aims and scope, and also it's good if you submit under one journal. Please, if you receive one invitation to be reviewer, accept. Because if you submit many manuscripts under environmental research, for instance, and when I ask you to revise one manuscript, to review one manuscript, if you decline, it's not so positive for you. Because because researchers want to publish, but they don't want to review manuscript. But we need, because it's mandatory. In environmental research, we have to select at least 3 reviewers. So for each manuscript, we need to find 3 reviewers. So I have to send maybe 20 requests for reviewer to have 3 positive reply. So you have to be reviewer to submit. So block out the best time for your writing. Ask a colleague of you to review your manuscript. This is good. You can send your manuscript to a colleague to revise. Read the final version several times. And also for the introduction and discussion, you have to follow logical way. So Yes, so this is very important to have a logic chain. Act as a reviewer. So this is the most more difficult, but better to send your manuscript to a colleague of you, asking to revise your manuscript. Okay, so as editor-in-chief, so some advices, recommendation for the first round. So cover letter, I told you, don't copy-paste the abstract. Stress the novelty significance of your work. The title should be concise, attractive, like a question, for instance. This is good. Abstract, informative with quantified result. Keywords. Don't repeat some words from the title, because yes, when for Science Direct, for instance, you can search manuscript from the title and keywords. So don't need to repeat. Don't repeat words from the title as keywords. It's useless. Introduction, so know how and why to fill the gaps, material methods. So complete. We have to be able to replicate your approach, your methodology under different conditions. Data set more than 2 years. Result concise and clear. High quality of figures. Discussion, international context. Conclusion, perspectives. Literature, limit the number of references. Recent, international, and no self-citation. Graphical abstract is optional, but we like, because in order to summarize the study content in a concise and pictorial way. But don't extract the figures from your manuscript for the graphical abstract. We have some graphical abstracts, they put one figure, one table, one title, one another figure. This is not a graphical abstract. It's just one figure, showing the main output of your manuscript with a pictorial way. So no text, forbidden. Do not extract figures from the core manuscript. This is important. Okay, so that's all. This is a famous picture. Okay, so if you have some questions.
Okay, if anybody have the questions.
I was long or no?
Yeah, you have to prepare your manuscript. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation. It's really interesting. I have 2 questions, and the first question is just when I prepare my manuscript, and I know that the figure should have everything and very informative. And my question is, so my studies, we involve a lot of wildlife and animals. Like, let's say if I have infographic of things that I'm studying, should I put animal picture in there? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, what do you prefer when you look at the manuscript? If like, do you like just the informative infographic, or do you like some decorations in the picture too?
Alors, decoration is more for the graphical abstract. I mean, from my point of view, informative. So, if I check your figure, I have to find it nice, and I have to understand the figure and result without the caption. I need to be able to understand. So, depends on your result, I don't know, but if you put some picture of animals, or maybe this would be good for the graphical abstract figure. So, with the infographist, yes, it depends, but not complex figures. Don't put many information, many figures, because you need to be scientifically sound. So, but the most important is I have to understand your result just by checking your figure. So.
Right. So just make it simple.
simple one, not complex.
Yeah.
But you can provide many information with a simple figure. So depends on your figure. I don't know. Second question.
The other questions. So you mentioned that so many journals now have a transfer office to facilitate our resubmission, and I have done that before, and I find out that it's taking a long time instead of just submit it directly to a new journal. So I want to ask, I'm not sure if this is something that you could tell us, but what is the process if we transfer our journal to through the system instead of
Alors,
just submit it directly?
This is just personal point of view. Sometimes I suggest as editor-in-chief, please, it's better, I reject your manuscript, and I said it's better to submit to a journal related to the topic. I put the name of the journal because it's easier and faster if I reject your manuscript and you submit the day after in the suggested journal. This is because I know the process can be long. But sometimes for some journal, because in Elsevier we have one system and the process is fast. We know, for instance, if I submit your manuscript from environmental research to toxicologic, aquatic or something, well, we have different journals. The process is faster. But this is dependent on the editor-in-chief. So this is why I prefer sometimes to reject your manuscript, suggesting you to submit another journal because the process is faster.
Right.
But yes, maybe 10 days, I would say on average is 10 days of transfer. Because when you transfer, it's direct. But after that, depends on the editor-in-chief of the new journal. And maybe the editor-in-chief would reject your manuscript. So the process can be longer. But maximum, I would say 10 days maximum. But sometimes it's long. This is why I know, this is why I prefer to reject with some recommendation.